friends, welcome back to the Autry Benton Show. Today we got a true treat. In case you didn't know, farming is important to America, and farming is important to South Carolina. It's very much our heritage, and we've got someone that's running to be the Agriculture Commissioner. Cody, thank you for joining us today.
Yes, sir.
Buddy.
Thank you, Autry.
Good deal. Buddy, tell how you been doing. You've been running hard, ain't you, buddy?
We're trying. I tell you, the work never stops on the farm, and I feel like that's how the campaign is too. You're always busy, always something to do, and I love seeing the people. Love being able to get out to rural South Carolina, especially as you know, Little River and Green Sea. I think it's so wonderful to be again from South Carolina. And just like this morning, I was over at the Bullino families and I tell people often, I said, you can't come to the beach and not stop at Bullino's.
You can get about anything you want at Bullino's. You can get you a meat and three, or you can get you some fish bait, or you can get some bread.
That's
anything
right.
you want.
That's right. Or if you have a long day at work, you can stop by the liquor store too.
For sure. Well, good, man, good. So you say even campaigning, the farm work still has to go on, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Right now we're planting corn, and with a little bit of moisture we do have, and I do encourage people to pray for rain because we go off of Mother Nature, and right now we need that nutrients to make sure that crop comes up out of the ground, and that's what we're doing now. And won't be too long, we'll be laying it by, which is putting nitrogen to it, and then we'll be harvesting over the summer. So it's been good to. You stop by, and if you just take a second, we get so busy with life, but if you take a minute, it's like, you know, planting your garden or planting those flowers, but watching them grow. And life is wonderful, and you'll be able to do that as in this position as Department of Agriculture for Commissioner of Ag. That is really, you're watching South Carolina grow. And I think it's very important for life. And I'm very fortunate to even be running for this position because of the importance that it has on our state, because you know, we're over $52 billion impact on the economy. People don't realize that. They think it might be tourism, might be manufacturing, but in all reality is that without agriculture and forestry, we would not be sitting even in these chairs or putting our food on the tables and eating 3 meals a day. I think people are really waking up now of where their food comes from.
Amen. That's good. So. You know, I want to go back to the beginning. So tell us where you grew up at.
I'm a 5th generation farmer.
So you really are a farmer, Cody?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You don't just talk about it.
No, sir. We were just changing the poinsettia on the planter 2 weeks ago over Easter. We were there on Saturday, and we're making sure, again, we're putting the corn in the ground. I'll be there again this weekend. So we're doing all we can while we can on the farm. Our family has been farming the same land since 1904. I'm very tied to my community. There are 3 things that I grew up that really make who I am: is our communities, is our farm, our schools, and our religious centers. You look at my community of Home Branch, that's exactly who we are.
Where's that at? Tell her.
It's actually in Clarendon County. It's in the PD.
Okay.
We claim the PD still. We are the home of the great General Francis Marion had come through our swamps there, and also still Fort Watson. The mound is still there, but the fort where Marion's men actually overtook the Tories and the Britons who were blockading then the actual Santee River. And so a lot of action was taking place. A lot of American Revolutionary War heroes have traveled through there, but it's a big agrarian society, much more of like Horry County used to be, and the whole state really, but that's, you know, Peter Horry was actually a planter farmer himself. And so we certainly, I'm very fortunate again to have grown up in that community. My granddad always told me, he said, son, don't ever forget where you came from and the people who've helped you along the way. And he also told me when I went off to college, he says, remember, son, your last name's everything. Don't do anything to mess it up.
There you go.
So I'm trying not to mess it up.
Wow. So 5th generation farmer. So what do y'all farm, man? What all do y'all farm?
We mainly row crops. So when I say row crops, I mean corn, wheat, and soybeans. And those corn is not what we eat in the grocery store. It's actually what we grow to then sell to the feed, to actually go into poultry. We sell to a local poultry group, and they take it and they make it into chicken feed.
I got you.
And so a lot of people don't realize is that we really do have it all in South Carolina in every type of facet. I actually raised chickens when I was growing up, pigs, cows, you name it, pheasants, ducks. We certainly enjoyed that. That's what taught me a lot about responsibility, but it also, again, about life, and you holding those chickens in your hand, those little chicks after they've been hatched, and you literally just watch them hatched, and now you've got life in your hand, and it's your responsibility to make sure that they get the nutrients and the feed. I ran a country store by myself when I was 10 years old.
Did you really?
In our same community, and I really enjoyed.
I bet you heard some stories there, didn't you?
Oh yes. I had a wonderful time. I even had actually brought my old checkerboard set up to the store.
Yeah.
And so in order to get people to stay and sit a spell and be able to tell some of those stories,
yeah,
I brought the checker set up there, and I got to know my customers very well. I knew what they liked, if they liked Levi Garrett in the pouch, or if they liked their Marlboro Reds in the box, or if they had a special type of snuff that they like, because that was a big prevalence still then, and I just knew it. I knew if they were a pipe smoker, I'd made sure they had Prince Albert in the can available, and it's interesting, we're creatures of habit. People are, and so I knew that Mr. Tom was, for example, would come in on Thursday, every Thursday, and there's a certain time that Miss Catherine would come in. You just knew your people, you knew your community. I miss that customer service aspect. Yeah. And what really, every time I walk into Bullnose, it reminds me of my time working at Piggly Wiggly. I worked at Piggly Wiggly junior in high school, senior, and then thankfully they hired me on in Florence when I went off to college. Yeah. And I was able to really work with people from all walks of life. And I think it's very important to know when people are truly on hard times. It makes you rethink of, the food, the nutrients that really goes into our people, the importance to have access to that locally grown food. I saw that early on, and it really had an impression on me that I wanted to help people. I wanted to continue to be a good steward, and so again, I just like to tell people I'm doing the Lord's work wherever He calls me, and sometimes, unfortunately, you or fortunately, I guess you could say, but you don't really know kind of what the plan is that He has for you. You just answer the call and you just go after it. And that's how I feel even about this race.
So you said you worked in the grocery store. You might have been like me. My first job was on the farm too, produce and tobacco. I was so happy. I wanted to go try something besides tobacco field and see if I liked back in groceries. But when I got there, I was like, you know what? There's a lot of peace and quiet out there on the farm too. You realize that how great it is, right? Yeah. So tell us about your mom and dad and your siblings and stuff. A little bit more about your family.
Yeah, so I grew up there in Home Branch. My family, my dad's born and raised there. Again, we've been farming the same land since 1904. We've gone to the same church, Home Branch Baptist Church. We really had a great community, great family there. My sister, I have a younger sister and I have two younger brothers. Okay. My sister now has two boys. They are growing every day, leaps and bounds. They grow like weeds, as I like to say. Maybe some fertilizer has been put in their shoes. But, they have grown up so much, and now just the other day, one Sunday, I took, again, take time with your family. I think family is very important. I think that you're truly not a man if you don't take time with your family. And I think that's very, for us in society with the fast pace that we're in, don't forget that those young people, those children are growing, they're absorbing, they're like sponges. But they're watching everything that you're doing, but they're also learning, and they're taking in that information. And so the other day I just decided to take time and leave the whole campaign type situation, which it is busy. But my nephews wanted to go fishing. So guess where Uncle Cody was? I was out there fishing with them.
That's good.
And I was showing them how the youngest really wanted to throw a rod and reel, even though I tried to talk him into that cane pole. The oldest nephew, he had his rod and reel. So guess what the little one wanted? He wanted his rod and reel.
How long did it take to get it?
So after probably the fourth time, we had to pull the string out of the trees, but he still was determined that he wanted to throw his rod and reel. But I will say it was all well worth it when we were finally able to get it in the pond and he was able to catch his first fish using the rod and reel, and the excitement and having him unhook, because it's all a process. You hook the worm or you hook the cricket, and it's life, nature, and we were able to, he reeled him in, we got him in, and then I was able to show him how to take the hook out gently because you don't want to jerk it out. You got to take care of the fish, because no matter the size of it, you're going to throw it back. And so it was really, again, having life in your hands and the nature that we've got to do all we can to protect it, because that fish is just swimming along, or our children, they're going off to school and they don't know all the parameters of what's happening. So we've got to make sure you have good leadership in place to protect those type of heritage that we have here in South Carolina.
Yeah. So where'd you graduate high school?
Graduated high school in Somerton, South Carolina, at Clarendon Hall School.
Yeah.
Was there literally from kindergarten till through senior year. My granddad, a lot of farmers came together and formed the school, and even though it took us about 20-25 minutes to drive there, we enjoyed it, and it really provided that strong Christian foundation that I was able to have that upbringing. That was my family, in a sense of, that was more just classmates. You were a family, and a lot of people, they go through trials and tribulations, and they still always hold a special place in my heart.
That's good.
And I see the people that it has impacted, just like me, that the school has had. And sometimes, though, in life, you don't realize how good you really have it until you're out of that environment. And it really, not just the change of going from high school to college, but it was that caring, compassion environment that I was so blessed to have for so long. But again, thankfully, I'm still on a text with all of my class, and I'm still on a call even with the people that were above or below me in class. They actually have come together, and they're hosting a homecoming for me for my campaign without me. It really just surprised me of the groundswell support. But that just tells you, again, that's family.
That's good.
And I'm very blessed.
Yeah. So then you're Swamp Fox, you went Francis Marion?
It was Francis Marion. We're proud patriots. And as you know, may not be aware, but General Marion's orders are actually on display at Francis Marion.
Wow, that's great.
And so I grew up going, obviously you hear the legendary Swamp Fox, and he had been through our swamps of Clarendon County. So I was so happy to be able to go to school there. Fortunately, I ended up staying and ended up getting my master's degree.
That's great.
Surprisingly, I tell people often, I say, surprisingly, I got through the first degree, and the second one, I was able to work there and got some experience, and I ended up getting my master's of business administration. But I guess I paid attention a good bit, and they ended up in my strategic planning, strategic management course. I was some of the few that actually became certified strategic planners.
Wow.
Which is really unique tool that I'm actually going to hopefully be able to use when going to the current Department of Agriculture. But it's, again, God puts things in your life. You don't really know why you're doing it. You just are led. And at that time, I had no idea. That's what I was led to do. But now I realize the department does not have a strategic plan in place.
That's great. So, and besides being a farmer, tell me, so you did work for Government Master in his administration. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so everything starts at the farm in my life.
Right.
And so working for Government Master starts at the farm.
Right.
Was working for Government Master, or I was actually out in the fields working. Our pigweeds had actually gotten resistant to then Roundup. So I was literally out there pulling pigweeds because my granddad did not like a trashy field.
Yeah.
In the middle of doing all that one day, Government Master, I got a call from Government Master. And he said, "Cody, I want you to come work for me." And I said, wow, what an honor to go work for Government Master. That's, I mean, literally, and I'm still holding this pigweed now.
Right in the middle of the field.
Right in the middle of the bean field. I know exactly where it was on the old Dorn plantation. And I was sitting there talking to him, and Government Master, he's a man of action. And he was ready. He said, all right, well, Cody, he's agreed. And I said, well, hold on. I said, sir, when would you like for me to start? And this was a Thursday. And he said, how about Monday?
Oh, boy.
And so I had to turn of a dime, and I was there on Monday. I worked for him, as you know, as his agriculture advisor and his chief executive assistant. I enjoyed doing that, and did that for about 8 years. And it was until President Trump called, and the governor said, Cody, you cannot tell the president no.
Tell me how that call went.
That was a really great opportunity. Again, when I left the farm to go to college, I had to tell myself, how can I bring the resources back to the family farm? So my mantra has been that. The calling I learned while I was in college was to, how can I help people? How can I be a public good? How can I pay it forward? I had been brought up around these wonderful people. And how can I, again, pay it forward? And so when I was given that opportunity to make a decision if I were to go work for the Farm Service Agency under the United States Department of Agriculture as the state executive director, it hit me back. My mantra was, how can I bring the resources back to the farm? And it was a perfect opportunity, I thought, to be able to help people, but also implement the President's America First agenda to help bring people and get the resources that they need, because in agriculture right now, we are hurting. They're on their backs. The markets, the way they are, the President's doing all he can with that, but on the other side, as you have high production cost, you see the high fertilizer, seeds. The farming agriculture is really getting hit. And we need to make sure that we keep all that in perspective. That's why I encourage people to always shop local if they can.
Amen.
So,
yeah, because it really matters.
It does.
It really matters. Cody, I want to ask you about this, and you said it. Forestry's big in our state too, and that falls under it. I mean, and these mills closing, it's really hit us hard. And you want to speak to that, and maybe what can we do to keep our loggers and everybody they affect, keep them moving?
Yeah, I think logging. I tell people often. I did meet with some loggers out on the Williamsburg-Georgetown County line. It actually has really become quite popular video that was out there because I was just simply in the woods with these loggers and understanding what it was like to be out there, the trials that they're going through right now. The landowners are one area of the industry, the big mills are another area, the smaller mills, and then you have the loggers. The loggers, I tell people often, is that the loggers don't choose the industry chooses them. There's some loggers that have been really logging since probably even the 1700s. We have families that are still doing that. I remind people often is that what really made our area, especially in the PD, and that's how places like King Street got its name, is because back in the early days of the 1700s, they would chop the trees down, they'd send them down the Black River, and they were the best pines and the best cedar that we could have. The cedar trees, there's some that they're even still finding now that may have drifted off from the Black River, but it would go on down and they'd take them over back to England.
Wow.
So what I'm hoping to do with the forestry industry is how can we do that same sort of idea of using the forests that we have here, make them into chips, and hopefully do break bulk shipping out of Charleston. There's been talk of some maybe doing out of Georgetown, because Georgetown was a very successful commerce port. There people have talked about that. That's an area, but also think about, well, there's a lot of research that's being currently done is with all of these plants that are coming in or currently sustainable, how can we use that wood fire chip to form the power for that plant? And so those are things that we're looking at, and I'm wanting to make sure that we really have put all options on the table, because to your point, we've lost over 22 mills in the Southeast past years, and we've got to make sure that we as an industry, if we don't do something about forestry, then those landowners have no turn other than sell it and maybe develop it, or maybe put solar or data center. I mean, people are making those decisions.
Yeah.
So we've got to do all we can to protect that land. That's why, working with Government Master, we were able to pass the Agriculture Working Lands Fund, which people are able to then utilize that tool as a way to conserve, put their land in conservation easements, whether it be a working forest or a working farmland.
Yeah.
And so with all of the development that's happening, people need options.
Yeah.
And I think that's very important for us, again, to your point, to focus on forestry, because it's a $22 billion impact on the state.
And I appreciate you having a plan, Cody, for that. And because there is a market if we can get a place that we can get them on some bulk ships and get them out of here, right?
That's right.
So thank you for that. And I really thank you for thinking outside the box. Way we can use this natural resource we got here.
That's right.
The other thing too I want to say on that, and you know the truth of this too, is it ain't just the loggers there, but it's the spill down, it's the parts stores, it's the fuel people, it's all the industries that it touches. When it closes, it affects our whole economy, right? I mean,
I couldn't agree with you more, and I remind people that often it's not just that big mill that closes that's affected those employees. It's all the small families and the small businesses, because South Carolina, of all businesses, 99.6% are all small businesses. They are the businesses that are truly affected, because to your point, you may have 3 or 4 layers of businesses that have supported that industry for some time. And so we've got to make sure that we keep them in mind as well, because of the fact that these people have been in business for 50, 60, 100 years. I mean, we've got over 100 years. So those are the people that cannot be forgotten about.
For sure. And Cody, you're running for Ag Commissioner, and I think that our listeners and the people of South Carolina, out of all the races, this is an important job, and you correct me if I'm wrong, one thing that will fall under that department is our inspection of our restaurants and scales and stuff. Am I right in that?
Oh, you are perfect, solid.
Man, that's a big job.
It is.
Talk to our listeners about that.
Yeah, so my understanding and what I want people to hopefully understand too is that your department touches just about every facet of your life. Whether you go to the gas pumps and pump gas, that's your Department of Agriculture. You walk into your favorite restaurant. We were just at Magnolia's earlier for a great event.
That's some good groceries there.
Oh, yes. They had stewed tomatoes and butter beans and fried chicken. I mean, I could go on and on.
And that's from the farm, buddy.
And that's right from the farm. But that is also regulated by your Department of Agriculture, to your point. You take your children off to school, the Department of Agriculture regulates the school cafeterias. You go to your favorite food truck, Department of Agriculture regulates that. Or just like we were at Bullnose early today, you put that produce on that weight and scale there, that's your Department of Agriculture. So I remind people often that you need someone who understands all facets of that department, because again, it touches our everyday lives. And I think it is important that we have someone who understands it from a business perspective, because sometimes the government can get in the way. And unfortunately, it becomes so much inundated with bureaucracy that the red tape, and it really just chokes out any growth. And in some cases, what I'm reading in the papers is that actually some of these places are closing because of it. And so my understanding and what I would like to do and my vision is that we need to get back to the people. We need to understand what we're here for and our purpose. And the purpose is to serve the people, not the government. The people serve the government. And I think right now we've got to get back to that. And again, me working for Piggly Wiggly and working for the governor and the president, of course, at Farm Service Agency, is how can we bring the people back to their department? But also knowing that we do need to have good regulations. But as you know, during COVID, it kind of shined the light of all these outdated, inundated policies and red tape that we need to get rid of. Well, a lot of areas did just that. Well, there are some that are still in the books that we need to certainly take a really close eye at, and how can we remove those barriers off of our small businesses. And one of two that I think is important is why is the high taxes that are happening on our small businesses, especially as you know in the city, they're paying county and city taxes. The other side is they're getting hit by these frivolous lawsuits. Tort reform, and there's some things that we need to talk about it. You know, if you don't talk about it, then the issue does not get resolved. Liquor liability is another issue of why these restaurants are not able to afford the insurance premiums to stay in business. Why is it that these businesses, some institutions and pillars of the community are closing? You start looking and peeling that onion back, and you realize it all goes back to these very issues we're talking about. So I guess in my mind is I'm the type of person that I want to get it done. I want to look at it. How can we stop the bleeding? How can we stop the unfortunate disaster that's happening on our small businesses? Because unfortunately, it's just kind of one of those not my problem type approach, and I'm not that person. I think it's important that we take the issues and we look at them and evaluate and address them.
Yeah, sounds like you're a true conservative Republican. Small government, give the power to the people.
That's right.
Cody, you said it very early. We're out of time, and we wrap up here. But it's not tourism. It's not fancy cities. Agriculture, the #1 industry in South Carolina. Am I right in saying that?
You are correct and spot on, and I hope more people will realize where their food comes from, and that I hope that they do encourage others to shop local, because for every dollar that they spend in that local economy, 67 cents stays there, and it keeps our farms, but more importantly, our farm security is a matter of national security.
Amen.
And I think that we all have a role to play to make sure that our food supply stays right here in South Carolina, and we've got to do all we can to protect our farms, and what better way is to buy and shop local.
I appreciate it. Cody, where can they find out more about you if they want to look into your campaign?
Well, I made it easy even for myself. It's codyforsc.com, and they can go online, they can look at my policies, they can also see my pup Manning, which I'm fortunate to also hope he could come today, but unfortunately he's back at the house. But they can also see where they can buy, or actually for free, these packets of seeds for sunflowers, and it also has my policy on the back. But again, I'm just so blessed to be on the road, working hard for South Carolina, but we're working to earn their vote and their trust for June the 9th.
Appreciate it. Thank you for
sir.
joining us.
Yes, sir.
Folks, farming, agriculture matters in South Carolina. The Ag Commissioner is very important. Primaries matter. Make sure you take your American right and go vote. It's important. It matters. Join us next time. Friends, quick reminder, on May 28th at the historic Peanut Warehouse, we're having the Horry County Stump Meeting Primary Edition. I'm partnered with my friends at the Horry County Conservative Alliance as we're inviting the candidates running for Republican office in Horry County to come out and tell us what they stand for and to make their plea to you, the voters. So make sure you go to my socials and get your free ticket as we get ready for the Horry County Stump Meeting. Doors open at 5, meeting starts at 6.